All right, I'd like to welcome you to the accent modification class, known as ESL 970 AM in our course description for Mission College. My name is Marsha Chan, and some of you I have met a little bit online already, right? How many of you received email from me and replied to my email? Oh, great. It's always great to see how far technology has come. I have been teaching online since 1997, and in those days we didn't have nearly the communication tools that we have nowadays. And of course, nowadays more people are actively involved in using computers and the internet to study and learn, so that's terrific. Just a little bit about myself. I was born in San Francisco. I grew up in Berkeley. I was educated at Stanford. I have two degrees from Stanford, and I've also studied at several other colleges. My mother was born and raised in Oakland. My father was born and raised in San Francisco. His father was born and raised in San Francisco. My father's father came from another country. Do you know where that is? From China. Right. From the province of Guangdong. So my ancestral language is Cantonese. But I was born and raised here, so what do you think I speak? English, right? Yes, English is my best language, but I am interested in other languages. As a 7th grader, I took French in high school. We didn't have Asian languages in high school in Berkeley back in the ancient days. We only had European languages. So I took French, and I enjoyed it very much, and I kept studying it all through high school. I had really good teachers who motivated me, and so when I went to Stanford, that was one of the fields that I majored in. So the other field is art. So I like the way things look and sound. And along the way, I learned other languages as well. At Berkeley, I took some classes in Italian, and later in Mandarin Chinese. I also learned Cantonese because I figured that's the language of my ancestors. Took some classes in Vietnamese, and have learned a few phrases in a few other languages, but I can't tell you that I speak them. But I have a good ear, and I'm interested in how things sound and in helping you hear better the sounds of American English, so that you can then transform that into your improved spoken English. So this class, as you know, 970 in our coursework here at Mission means it's the high level, the advanced level. So we don't have any beginners. You notice I was talking to a few students who came in earlier who are at more elementary level of English, and they went to another class. So for this class, I know all of you speak English fluently, and you are here to make some improvements in the way you speak. Is that right? Yes? Okay, good. Then we're in the right place. So my intent here is to help you do something that's a little bit more technical than you would do in a regular listening and speaking class. So we have listening and speaking classes from 9:30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And those are more directed at overall comprehension of oral English, conversations and telephone menus and lectures of varying lengths and conversation and that sort of thing. But in my class here, it's more technical listening. It's actually listening to the melody, the music of language. Do you know what I mean by the music of a language? Because every language has its own melody, right? So that, in a way, is why we consider different accents. Now, everybody has an accent. My accent is different from the accent of the teacher in the next room on a small scale, right? And my accent is different from people who are born and raised in Texas. And my accent is different from people who are born and raised in London. Yet we speak the same language, right? So accents are fine. But what we want to do is make sure that our accents are not so far off the target that it's difficult to communicate. We want to try to minimize misunderstandings and, kinds of things that happen when you pronounce things incorrectly and people think you're saying one thing, but you really meant another, right? So has that occurred to you? You've had some trouble You meant to say this, but they understood it like that. And then there's some other things that go wrong. So what we're trying to do is to improve your ability to communicate, to improve that. And in order to do that, we'll learn some things about how the spoken language comes out of your mouth, right? And how it also is perceived in the ear. So those things are two intertwined areas. So when we think about changing an accent, we also have to think about how physical it is, all right? So I want you to think of this as a physical education class, all right? This is going to be very different from some other classes that you've taken, even if you've taken other English classes. For example, if you've taken composition, everything is, on the page, right? And all the letters are the same size. You type an A, a B, and a C, and they're just all on a line. But when you speak English, or you speak any language, there's some tones that go up and some that go down. There's some that are longer and some that go shorter. So that's what we're going to do in this class, all right? Now, I already wrote to you an email and gave you some information. Some of you already gave me your responses, and some of you have already made your response in the course poll. So that's great. So as I said, over the years, I've seen a growth in people's ability to understand and use technology for different uses.